This video is all about giving you a strategy to help you progress if you have lower back pain, to help you get back into the things that you want to do if you have lower back pain, to help you safely and effectively navigate that recovery process with as fewer relapses and flare-ups as possible. It's something that we use with our members to help them do just that, and it's a really, really valuable tool to help you not only out of a crisis, get started and build confidence with your rehabilitation, but also for the long term, getting back into the things you love, whether it's going to play tennis, whether it's going back into the garden, whether it's just getting back into normal gym-based workouts as well. It's going to be something that can really, really help you. So what is it? Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content that's going to help you keep your back in shape and keep it that way for the long term. So what we're talking about is our T.R.E.A.T protocol. That's it here. If you want a screenshot or pause the video to just digest it, I'm going to go through each one of these. It's really important. It's essentially a protocol for evaluating the impact of change. And there are a few caveats, important points of clarification as I go through this to help you essentially look at one particular variable at a time and how it's influencing your recovery process. So a lot of this is talking about moving our members through their back in shape rehabilitation process. So if you're doing some rehab at home, moving from just simple exercises onto more complex exercises, moving from one intensity up to another intensity, maybe as I mentioned earlier, going out and trying something like tennis. If you've got some back pain and you think you're okay now, going back in, trying something like tennis and using this protocol to evaluate. Now, something like tennis might not be so good for a number of reasons, such as the rapid changing in direction and the increased competence required to do that compared to something like shorter distance running, which can be a lot more manageable to get into, provided we do it in the right way. So by approaching those sorts of activities or upping intensity or daily routines or hobbies in the right sort of manner, we can then incorporate the T.R.E.A.T protocol to really effectively evaluate the effectiveness of that. So first and foremost, where do we start? The very first one is going to be test. Test something new. You've maybe going to be doing your workouts and you want to test moving from what we would call phase 2 to phase 3. Maybe you want to be doing your workout and you're doing 3 sets of 10 reps and you want to go up to 4 sets. Maybe it's trying to go back to the golf driving range for the first time, or maybe it's a 10-minute stint in the garden. You're going to test something new and you're going to test one thing new. That is the important first step. We evaluate and we make a conscious decision. We don't just randomly and haphazardly do a bunch of new things, because that is why quite often we go around and around in circles. Very important that we're only doing one variable at a time. Once we've done that test, we're going to move and rest for the remainder of that day. Again, that doesn't mean that you tried that new intensity or that new activity, then you ended up walking the dog for the first time in 6 weeks because your other half was out. Then you ended up having to run to the shops and carry back Christmas shopping at last minute and get that into the house. Oh, and by the way, you had to run out the door quickly to go and collect the dog again from their vet appointment. It's going to be a simple, normal day. If we end up getting other things stacking on top of one another, we aren't really looking at the implication of those things. And when we do that in that haphazard way, as I mentioned in the previous point, we end up getting really demoralized because we think, oh, I can't do that new intensity. I'm feeling terrible when we get onto evaluation next. I'm feeling terrible afterwards. It didn't work. I can't do that. And that's not the case. If we don't have a rest for the remainder of the day, we don't keep things as normal and have a normal day with that one thing being different, we end up not being able to draw appropriate conclusions. We increase the likelihood of things going wrong. And also, instead of testing, say, a 10% increase in output, we've tested invariably a 20, 30, 50, 100, 10x input and output inadvertently because we didn't control those other things in the day. Understand that we know that many of you guys watching our channel have serious cases of back pain, long-standing cases of back pain or sciatica that have really got you down and got in the way of life. We can't keep on going about these things in this lax attitude. We're not going to get success, and we're not going to be able to build a stable foundation to move forwards if we don't. And just in case it wasn't crystal clear, rest does not mean you go home and lie in bed for the whole afternoon. That is a bad idea, and please, if you've got that kind of end of the stick, that is definitely the wrong end. Then we get on to E, evaluate how you responded to that test, to that rest afterwards. And the very important thing here is to evaluate it within the context of your usual daily pattern, of your usual daily ups and downs. Maybe they're not daily. Many people with back pain have, because they're maybe not aware of the stresses and strains of all those daily activities, they have what feels like a very random pattern. Every couple of days it kind of comes on and then it goes away, and then it comes back after 1 day, then it comes back after 3 days, and you don't really know. That randomness is a pattern. You just haven't quite figured it out just yet. So if we happen to be having a day that is normal within the pattern of our usual pain and flare-ups, then we can evaluate that in the context of that when we wake up that morning. If every morning we wake up with a little bit of stiffness and discomfort, maybe more stiffness and discomfort to the point where it's uncomfortable getting out of bed, we're a little bit sore going to the bathroom or going downstairs, if we wake up after this test the next day and we feel like that, nothing's really changed. And in the cases of more severe back pain, nothing changed is often a good thing, because if you're moving up a new intensity or trying something new, we want to know that it's not making things dramatically worse. We want to know that we are able to now train at that intensity, because training at that intensity one time does not yield the benefits of training that intensity. Training at that intensity multiple times, consistently, over many days and weeks is what yields the outcome. We just need to know through this evaluation process that you are able to test and to work out at that intensity. Particularly important, this analysis, when we are talking about our rehab work and moving forwards. Now, just as a quick side note, it's important that if we consider we're not able to do simple exercises like, say, squats or dead bugs or lunges, yet we're considering going back into things like playing tennis or other more advanced, more athletic endeavors or gardening, then we really need to just make sure we're actually testing the right thing. Should we really be doing that right now, or should we be focusing on our strengthening? And part of that is just the guidance of having a plan and strategy going forwards to rehabilitate our back or sciatica or whatever the other injury is. If you are someone that doesn't really know what you're doing going forwards and you're struggling and you're trying to find the right thing to help you with your back pain or sciatica, no matter what your diagnosis is, whether it's disc injuries, whether it's muscle strains, whether it's more severe diagnoses of things like spondylolisthesis or some degenerative change in the spine, then definitely use the link up here and link in here in the description to check out more about the Back in Shape program and how it can help you. So we've done our test, we've had our rest, we've had our evaluation, we've concluded that it was actually okay, or it wasn't okay, to move up to that new thing, whatever the test was. Now we need to adjust. We adjust accordingly. If it was okay to try that new activity or that new intensity, then that becomes enrolled into part of our daily routine and we move forwards like that. If, however, it was something that actually created a significantly abnormal flare-up or irritation, we then want to go and have a look and say, what happened here, do a post-mortem, figure out what went wrong. Was it that we actually didn't test one thing, we tested 16 different things at the same time inadvertently because life happens? Or was it that we did something wrong perhaps? Or, like in the case of things like tennis, maybe it was a bit too soon. Like in the case of things like going for a 2-hour road bike ride, maybe it's just not a good thing to do for our lower back. So have that good evaluation process, follow on with an adjustment process as the results dictate. Finally, we're going to leave it a bit of time and then we're going to test again in the future. We should always be looking to move forwards. And by doing incremental improvements or incorporations of other daily activities outside of our rehabilitation, we can add on little extra bits. Often going for a 5K run for the first time slowly is much, much worse than going for 3 or 4 sets of 2 to 3 minute runs, because that way we can have these bite-sized chunks that we can build on to add or decrease and say actually 4 sets was okay, but 5 little runs wasn't. When we've just got one long stretch of activity, 3 hours in the garden, a day out shopping, a full game of tennis, we can't really break it down into figuring out that was it that the activity was wrong, or was it just too much of that activity? When we do sets and reps, which is a very important principle for you to take forwards, we can, whatever the activity, break it down and build it up in a way that is coherent with this T.R.E.A.T protocol and that allows us to move forwards in a way where we feel like we're in control and not like everything else is controlling us. Hopefully you did find this video helpful. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you've taken some notes on that T.R.E.A.T protocol and how you can incorporate it into what you're doing going forwards. If you did find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you know someone else that's struggling with their back pain, and this does apply to all manner of injuries, then consider sharing this video with them. And remember, you can stay up to date with all of our latest videos by subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.